All right, so it's a hot day here in Tacoma. So, um, yeah, dealing with that. I hate it. But we do have air conditioning in part of the house, and so that's the part of the house that we kind of gravitate to during times like this. But the rest of the house really is not that bad. As long as you keep the blinds closed, you're pretty good. It's typically not too bad. I think tomorrow is going to be really bad, like in the 90s, which is kind of rare for here. And when we do get the 90s, it's not like every day. It's like for a day and then that's it. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. It's not about weather and temps and all that. It's actually an Ask HershNoeie. This lady sent me a picture of her and her boyfriend, and she wanted to know that they have been together for 3.5 years, and they're engaged. So her fiance, right? So she wrote to me saying, "Hi HershNoeie, I love watching your channel. My fiance and I have been fans for a few months. So welcome to HershNoeie, by the way. We love you and your family. Big question is, you guys have been married for 10 years, and we saw that video. What information can you give us or suggestions on how to have a long-lasting marriage?" Well, I appreciate that. Here's one of the things that I would say in terms of marriage, right? Because I didn't get it right the first time. Noelle didn't get it right the first time either. Um, but I would say that when you get married, the biggest thing for me, and I can only speak for myself, is I had to mature and grow. Now, I'm not saying that I was 100% of the problem in my marriage that failed, no, because that person had a lot of issues. But those aside, there were a lot of things about me that I needed to change and things I did not like. And so for me, during that whole divorce period, it was a time for reflection. I had to really reflect on things that I didn't really like, things that I can improve on, and just really focus on self-improvement. I think the biggest thing when you get into any sort of relationship or marriage is self-improvement. Never put all the blame on someone else, because there's a lot of part that you play into it too. There's certain things that people allow to happen that they shouldn't happen. There's certain things that people are looking for that they probably shouldn't be focusing on, and focusing on other things. There's a lot that you really have to look at in yourself and say, okay, what part did I play in that? So once I was able to do that, that was when I said, okay, now I'm ready for the next step, which was to find someone that I can have a family with. And I think that once you put out all the simple things that don't matter, looks fade, someone's income can fade, all of those things can fade, but the one thing that does not fade is someone's character. And if you have someone that has a good character to begin with, then you're doing pretty good. You don't want someone that's got a suspect character or whatever. I think the big issue that people, and I was guilty of that, is focusing on looks. Focusing heavily on looks and not the substance of a person, what they've accomplished, what they've been able to do, all of that. That is why we're in the situation that we're in. I think that people can talk a good game. And I think that's why we're in the situation in terms of divorce in this country. That's why it's so high. Once you've actually gotten to the point of where you want someone that is going to be a great parent, I looked at it like this. I wanted someone who I know my mother would approve of and that my sister would approve of. My sister was probably going to be the hardest one because she's just like that. And she's nice to people, don't get me wrong. But my sister can see through BS. You know what I mean? And so she's very protective of me. All of my sisters, I'm the youngest, and the only boy. So they're all protective of me. So I knew that if my sister would be cool, that my mom would be cool. You know what I mean? Like I figured that it would not be that much of an issue. For me, I wanted someone that was my equal. Now, I don't mean to offend anybody with this, but my mama gave me some advice. And she said, You never want to date someone who is way above you or way below you. She went on and explained that, but I guess the best way I can explain it is that if you're in college, date someone who has a college. If you got a college degree, date someone who has a college degree. If you are a professional, date someone who's a professional. Right? Now, some people may have an issue with that, but the reason why, and I understood later, because my mama never did do a lot of explanation. She just kind of said, here's a statement and here's her beliefs behind it. But the reason why that makes a lot of sense, like date someone who wants to have kids, date someone who's been through similar situations as you, those types of things. The reason why is because if I date someone who has a college education like I do, we understand that struggle. We understand what it was like to go through and apply, and we have something to talk about and our experiences, and there's more commonality there than not. We both have had professional careers. That's something, again, that we have something in common with and that we can talk about. We both have been divorced before. That's something that we have something, unfortunately, in common with. We never had kids. So that's something that we had something in common with, right? She did not want me to be with someone who was so drastically different in terms of life experience. A lot of people place difference on race or skin color. That really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Some people put a lot of weight in that, but they still end up getting divorced with someone who's the same skin color, right? Because they're not diving deep into the person, typically, a lot of times, right? And then sometimes people are just, you never know. Some people are just, you wake up one day and they've changed. But, so no matter how much details you go in trying to discover someone, they can change. But for me, it was really going through the layers of Noelle, just looking at all the different layers, all of the great things, and then the few minor things that were things that just bothered me. And then there were the things in the middle that were like, these are concerns, but these aren't so drastic that you just abandon ship, right? These are things that you want to kind of talk through and kind of understand some of the minor things. And so some of those minor things were things that we have in common, like the divorce. What was that about? Going through those detailed conversations and talking them through to understand. Now, we had difference of opinions and views, right? But we kind of politically thought the same way. And there's a lot of different things that we kind of thought the same way. I don't believe in being with someone who's completely opposite, because when you have times like this, that's when you really and truly can. There's people that have drifted apart because of the political environment that we're in. One person believes this other way and this other person's the extreme, right? And so it creates a problem. It just does. So for Noelle and I, the reason why we've lasted so long, and even though we've had difficulties on the outside, mainly from her family in the past, not so much now, but the reason why we were able to survive all those things, and we're able to survive, even online, social media, we have our life a little bit online. But you have bigots. You have bigots that are of all skin tones. There's some black women that don't like the fact that I'm with the non-black women. There are some white dudes and Asian dudes that don't like the fact that Noelle's with a black dude. You have some people that a lot of people just don't care. And me, I'm of the type that I don't care what you think, right? But it took a while to get to this point. The reason why we can survive those things, and it doesn't really rattle us, we can survive the challenges even with her family early on, was because we really and truly understood each other. We had so much in common. We had so many conversations about the things we had in common. The best advice my mom gave me was, don't date someone who's not your equal. Right? And I understood what she meant. I think some people have a different idea of that, but I understood what she meant. That we had a lot of things that were really in common, so therefore we're able to bond on those experiences. We were able to actually understand each other. It got to the point of where we bonded so well that Noelle and I could finish each other's sentences. I would be thinking of a song and she would start singing it, and vice versa. So we really started to become very in tune with each other. Now, of course, we met on eHarmony. So eHarmony was great because it matches you very, very well. But it could only go so far. And when we met and we started to date and talk, there were still a lot of things that we had to kind of mesh out. And there's certain parts of me, I said I had rough edges, and she kind of smoothed those out, was because there are certain beliefs I had, being brought up in the South and, different things. So I had different viewpoints. And so she kind of was like, not saying change this, but basically like, well, here's my point of view. And I got to thinking, like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not someone who's so rigid where I can't bend and flex and, think about something and be like, okay, maybe I thought about it kind of wrong, or maybe I had a different idea, and I kind of see that. And she's the same way, right? So we're both able to reason with each other. And I think having that flexibility gives you longevity. Because if you're so rigid and you're not capable of bending, and you're not capable, and that was one of the big issues with my ex, was that it was not possible for her to bend from her belief or bend from her thought. Her thought was just concrete, and you could not change her mind on anything that she wasn't willing to change her mind on. So people like that have a hard time having relationships because they're not flexible. You see what I'm saying? So I knew early on I wanted to be, I didn't want to be a person that wasn't flexible, but also, two, I wanted to make sure I had someone who was flexible, willing to learn and willing to educate at the same time. And so you're able to grow. And I think that's one of the big things. The other thing is just being humble. Noelle is very smart, but also very humble. She does a lot of stuff, but very humble. And I'm also the same way. And I think that if you're humble in life to other people and you're humble with each other, things work out better for you. You see what I'm saying? Like, we don't try to be something that we're not. You get what I'm saying? Because then you have to constantly fight to keep that false imagery, that false narrative. So I think that for us, we've lasted as long as we have because we're just brutally honest. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to be other than just being honest. And so I think that is, sometimes she may ask a question and I'll give her, like a pottery piece, for example. If she does a pottery piece and I don't think it looks good, I'll be like, I don't like it. You see what I'm saying? Or if I come up with a suggestion and she doesn't like it, she's like, that's not my thing. I don't like it. Like, we're brutally honest with each other. Now, I may not like that answer, but I appreciate the answer because it lets me know that, hey, that's not something that she thinks is cool. We probably can find something that we both like, and in the end, it works out. So, versus not saying anything just to please the other person, and then later on you're living with something that you don't like. So, I think for both of us, our relationship has lasted so long because that communication is there. We started early on with just having so much in common that there isn't anything that we can really not talk about. Deep discussions, lighthearted discussions, there's nothing that we can't discuss and be brutally honest about. And so I think that if you're looking for longevity, I mean, my blueprint may not work for you or work for somebody else, but for me, it is being honest. Being honest with everybody in your life, whether they like it or not. Putting your faith in the other person's hands, trusting the other person, having that full trust is another part of it. So, but you can't have the trust if you don't have the communication. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't get to these different places until you have that communication and you understand each other and you understand where you're coming from. When I did the video, I think I said that 10 years, or maybe I told it to Noelle, or both, I don't know. But, 10 years went by quick. Went by quick. I was married to my ex for 4.5 years, and it took forever, forever for a week to go by. With Noelle, it just breathe. I mean, it's just been quick. Like, we're shocked that soon Zoe's going to be 10 in January. It's just unbelievable. She's going to be 10 in January. You know what I mean? Like, things have went by so quick because it's just natural. We have a natural relationship, and that's bigger than anything. You can't buy it. You can't fake it. You can't do any of those things. You can't. I put it to you this way. With Noelle, I can be broke and under a bridge, and as long as I have Noelle beside me, I can care less. I can care less. It's like I told her, I bring up my ex as a juxtaposition, right? My ex, I was afraid to move across town with. Noelle, I can move across country with, and then even into another country, because there's not that fear there. There's not that concern. I know that we can navigate anything. So with her, it doesn't really matter where I'm at. As long as I'm with her, I'm good. So I think that once you find someone who you love, which you have, the best thing to have longevity is understand that there's give and take, that you can't just be so rigid. Make sure that you have a lot of things that are in common so that you're able to talk about those things, and that you're not so drastically different that you can't relate. And communication. I think communication is the biggest piece of that puzzle. Without that, you don't have anything. Communication is truly the foundation of a relationship. Period. If you hide stuff, or you don't really talk about things, or you don't really get everything out there, you have a cracked foundation. So anything you build on it is going to be weak. It's not going to be as strong as it could be. So to me, I think that those are the things that are key, that I learned kind of the hard way, but I had to go through things in order to learn that. We both did. So that would be the advice that I would give to someone if they're asking. And, you're asking. But if somebody younger than me comes to me and we're having a one-on-one, that's what I would say. I would say, keep those things in mind. Humble yourself. But anyhow, I can go on and on and on. Make sure you join our Discord, because it's pretty cool. We talk about a lot of different things. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I will see you. Take care.